So sometimes you do need to take a budget deck and update it for what would happen if you didn't have a budget. So let's go ahead and do that real quick with a Super Friends deck I made a while back. A little bit of backstory. There was a bet between me and Gale, another person who has helped me do videos on this channel before. Basically, the conversation boiled down to I could not make a Super Friends deck work for $15 in Orzhov colors. I could make it work at 3 color and 4 color because at that point, we've got access to enough Planeswalkers within the $15 budget to make a deck function. However, what I claimed is that I could make it work in 2 colors, and so I chose Lae'zel as the commander of choice. Being able to have a hardened scales for Planeswalkers seemed perfect for the deck that I was wanting to build, and letting Lae'zel effectively give us access to easy ultimates seemed like a good gimmick to build around. I selected Scion of Halaster as the background because I wanted access to the Orzhov Planeswalkers, and none of the other black backgrounds did anything for us. This one also gives us a good way to sculpt our draws, which is fantastic in a budget deck. If we look at the mana curve for the original deck, it was a little wonky, having only really one thing to do on turn 3, which was play Lae'zel, and pray to God nobody killed her. The deck also lacked ways to protect Lae'zel that were mana efficient, and that just comes with the territory of being a $15 deck. You do have concessions that need to be made, even if you are going to be more powerful than the average precon. However, if we look at the new version of the deck that I have built, it has a smoother mana curve with a slightly more favorable amount of low-cost cards. We do still run into the problem of running a high mana value deck. However, to compensate for that, I have increased the land count from the original. The original is sitting at 37 lands, while in the new version we are going to be going up to 39 with the help of some MDFCs. The deck is also going to get a smoothed out ramp package that is going to help things be much better. There's also going to be some more ways to cheat Planeswalkers out onto the battlefield so that we can avoid that just usually unavoidable problem of Planeswalkers. They are slow and they come down late. Let's see if we can't cheat a few of those out and have some more ways to defend them in this full power version of the deck. That said, let's get right into things. As with the original version of the build, we are running Lae'zel Vlaakith's Champion as our commander. For 3 mana, she allows us to get extra loyalty counters on any of our Planeswalkers whenever they would normally get loyalty counters, and extra 1/1 counters on creatures if they would normally get 1/1 counters. To supplement her, we have the Scion of Halaster background, which allows us to sculpt our draws, letting us select between 2 cards instead of 1. Over the course of this game, this is effectively doubling the amount of times we would be looking at our cards, which is incredibly helpful if you are trying to get decent draws, which we will need because our deck is, as I said, very mana heavy. So we need to be able to get to our lands. We need to be able to get to our important pieces. Our main method of winning the game is going to be by supplementing and swarming the board with tokens. These tokens will also allow us to protect our own Planeswalkers from being removed. So let's go ahead and go into some of the includes in here, especially the new ones, now that we are running with a new version of the deck. This is Lolth Spider Queen. Whenever a creature we control dies, we can put a loyalty counter on Lolth, meaning as we defend our Planeswalkers, she gets bigger. For 0, we can use her to draw a card and lose a life. For -3, we can create a bunch of spider tokens to protect her, and if we ult her, we can get an emblem that says whenever an opponent is dealt damage by combat by 1 or more creatures we control, if they dealt less than 8 damage, we can go ahead and up that damage to 8. We can force them to lose up to 8 life, meaning instead of creating a lot of tokens, we can create just 1 and aim them at each of our opponents, making them take 8 damage every turn. This puts players on a 5-turn clock, which is fantastic for putting pressure on everybody. Then we have Elspeth, Knights Errant. For +1, we get a 1/1 soldier token. For +1 as well, we can give a creature 3/3 and flying, but her -8 gives us an emblem that says all of our aura, artifacts, creatures, enchantments, and lands have indestructible. Sarah the Benevolent gives us the ability to plus her by 2 to give our creatures 1/1 and flying so they can get in there and do damage. Her -3 makes a 4/4 white angel, which is a fantastic blocker, and her -6 gives us an emblem that makes us very hard to kill. If we have a creature, then any damage that would take us to 1 reduces us to 1 instead of taking us below 1. Kaya Geist Hunter can give our creatures 1/1 by throwing a counter on a target creature, also giving them Death Touch. She also can negate herself by 2 to make sure that if one of our tokens would be created, we can then double those tokens instead. Her ult allows us to exile all cards from all graveyards and make a 1/1 white spirit token for every card exiled this way. This is one of the most powerful auto ults we have in the deck. If you have the commander out and a nesting grounds or any other way to get an extra loyalty counter on her, being able to get rid of all the graveyards and then immediately make an army of 1/1 spirits with flying can close out games fast. Gideon, ally of Zendikar, makes 2/2 tokens. He can also become a 5/5 human soldier, and his -4, which we can do instantly when he comes out, gives all creatures we control +1/+1. Normally this would kill Gideon, but if we have our commander out, he'll come out with 5 loyalty counters, going down to 1 loyalty counter when we ult him immediately. Almost always you will want to immediately ult Gideon when you drop him down. Elspeth Tyrell gives us 3 1/1 soldier creatures by negating her by 2. She can also board wipe if we need her to, and she can also give us lots of life for every creature we control. A Johnny Caller of the Pride gives a creature flying and indestructible, puts a 1/1 counter on a creature, or for -8 we can make a ton of white cat tokens. Sorin Solemn Visitor puts black vampire tokens on the board, gives all of our creatures 1/0, or gives us an emblem that says at the beginning of every upkeep, a player sacrifices a creature if they are our opponent. A Johnny Adversary of Tyrants can give 1/1 counters to 2 creatures. He can return little creatures from our graveyard to the battlefield, and he can give us an emblem that says at the beginning of our end step, create 3 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. He's also in that lovely amount of loyalty that allows us to auto ult him with our deck, and I'll show you how to do that when we get to the gameplay section. Ob Nixilis the Black Oath can make a 5/5 black demon to protect us. He can also slowly burn our opponents away while giving us life, and his emblem allows us to sack creatures to draw lots of cards. Liliana Death's Majesty can reanimate creatures, can make 2/2 black zombies or blow up all non-zombies, and Sorin Lord of Innistrad can make 1/1 black vampire tokens. We can get emblems with him as well to give all of our creatures 1/0, and his -6 destroys 3 target creatures and or planeswalkers, returning each of them to our battlefield as soon as we do that. Oh boy, I hate talking about Super Friends decks because it is a lot of text on every individual card. It feels like trying to read a Yu-Gi-Oh card sometimes, but hopefully that shows you how we are going to be winning the game. Lots and lots of tokens, lots and lots of things that will be able to harm our opponents and protect our planeswalkers. We're also going to be running a big recursion package to either keep our commander on the board or get planeswalkers on the board easily and cheaply. Malakir Rebirth is an MDFC we can use to reset our commander if it were ever to die. Command the Dreadhorde gets any number of creatures or planeswalkers from the graveyards and puts them on our battlefield, but there's a hefty life cost for doing so. Triumph of the Reckoning allows us to get all artifact enchantments and planeswalkers from our graveyard to the battlefield. Yawgmoth's Vile Offering blows up a creature or planeswalker as well as reanimating a creature or planeswalker when we use it. And Breach the Multiverse makes everybody mill 10 cards, and then we reanimate a creature or planeswalker from every player's graveyard when we do so, almost always getting a planeswalker from our own graveyard. Let's also add in Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots to protect our commander. Let's add in an oops, I forgot how to win condition with Liliana's Talent, because the -8 puts all creatures from all graveyards on the battlefield under our control. If you have a planeswalker at 8 and you pay 2 mana, just automatically ult that thing and just try to win the game outright when you do this. Let's also add in a few ways to add loyalty to our planeswalkers. The original deck had this, and I think it should be in every version of the deck later on. Grateful Apparition lets us proliferate when we punch people or planeswalkers. Oath of Gideon gives extra loyalty counters to all of our planeswalkers, but the new additions to the deck will be Chain Veil. At the beginning of our end step, if we didn't activate a loyalty ability, we'll lose 2 life. But if we pay 4, we can use double loyalty abilities for all of our planeswalkers. We get to use extra loyalty on them every turn, meaning we can do things like plus a planeswalker's loyalty and then immediately ult them because Lae'zel gives us the math to do so. Resourceful Defense allows us to have loyalty counters transfer to any card if it were to die. This means if somebody removes one of our planeswalkers without first stripping it of its loyalty in combat, then we will be able to transfer those loyalty counters over to another planeswalker. And we can use 5 mana to move any number of counters from a permanent to another permanent, giving us a way to make hard to ult planeswalkers automatically ult if we have the mana to sink into it. Then we have Vraska Betrayal's Sting. This can allow us to proliferate for all of our planeswalkers and also gives us a draw engine. The other bits of text on it are somewhat irrelevant for us, but the forcing a creature become a treasure is still a pretty good ability we have access to. And there's our core strategy, but that is not enough to win a game. We still need to be able to dig through our deck, so let's go ahead and get into our draw section. We've got 9 cards dedicated only to drawing cards, but as is the nature of all Planeswalker decks, there is draw in the other supplemental areas of the deck. But let's begin with Deploy the Gatewatch. This lets us look at the top 7 cards of our library and put 2 Planeswalkers on the battlefield without paying any mana for them. Urza Assembles the Titans lets us scry 4 and then put a planeswalker from those cards into our hand, and then put a planeswalker from our hand onto the battlefield, and we can also use it to make all of our planeswalkers have the ability to activate their loyalty abilities twice. Tomic Wielder of Law says if an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those are aimed at us or our planeswalkers, then they will lose 3 life and we will draw a card, giving us a bit of a protective deterrent from our opponents. Kaya Ghost Assassin is another fantastic card in this deck. If we use her 0 ability, we can exile her and up to one other target creature and throw it back onto the battlefield. But for her -2, we can make every opponent discard a card and draw a card. Because we have a Proliferate engine in the deck and we have Lae'zel on the board, Kaya should be able to use this ability constantly to drain our opponents of resources. Black Market Connections can be used to give us a treasure, draw a card, and even make a shapeshifter to block for our planeswalkers. Enduring Innocence gives us access to draw every time a creature with power 2 or less drops onto the battlefield. And Tacassia's Welcome does that for creatures with mana value 3 or less. Use these with the plethora of tokens the deck is creating. Then we're going to throw in an Arena Rector. This can block for our planeswalkers, but if it dies, it will give us a planeswalker out of our deck and throw it onto the battlefield for free. And Bolas's Citadel. This card can swing games heavily in our favor, but do be careful. Make sure that the Ajani planeswalkers are pumping your life up if you are using this card religiously. Bolas's Citadel says we can play the cards on the top of our deck by exchanging life for those cards' mana values. So if we see an Enduring Innocence on top, we can pay 3 life instead of paying 3 mana and drop it right on the board. This will give us another way to freely put planeswalkers on the board and get massive gains, but do be wary, it does have a hefty cost of life. This is offset a little bit by the fact that planeswalkers are effectively extra lives for us. Every planeswalker is another target that has to be attacked, so it is likely we will have the life to pay, but still, this is a tricky card. And that does it for our dedicated card draw, but we are not done. We still need to make sure our opponents cannot win the game. So let's start removing their important game pieces from the board. We've got a 13 card removal package, and every one of these is either a planeswalker, an MDFC, or does something with our planeswalkers. And, well, there's one exception to that, and that is Anguished Unmaking, just because having the ability to get rid of any non-land permanent is fantastic. But we have the MDFCs of Witch Enchanter, Boggart Trawler, and Fell the Profane. They can get rid of problematic cards in the graveyard, on the board, and also just happen to be lands on the backside, which is super helpful. The weakest of these is the Hagra Mauling, but it is still a fantastic card in its own right since it is an MDFC. We also have Drown in Ichor, which will make a creature get -4/-4 and then allow us to proliferate. Then we have Eldest Reborn, forcing everybody to sack a creature or planeswalker, then makes everybody discard a card that isn't you, and then its final ability will put any planeswalker from the graveyard onto the battlefield under our control. After that, we have Oath of Liliana, which also makes everybody sack a creature, and at the beginning of every end step, if a planeswalker entered the battlefield, we'll make a 2/2 black zombie creature that can defend our planeswalkers. Moving into the planeswalkers that are in this section, though, Obnixilis Reignited can draw cards, blow up creatures, and give a player a death sentence of an emblem. Kaya Spirit's Justice can give us the ability to surveil, then exile cards from graveyards, make 1/1 white and black spirit creature tokens, or exile a creature we control and then force everybody else to exile a creature as well. And she has a passive ability that says whenever one or more creatures we control or creatures in our graveyard are put into exile, we can choose a creature from among them. Until the end of the turn, any token we have becomes a copy of it, which there are some niche scenarios where we will be able to use that. Liliana, Waker of the Dead, can give a creature -X/-X, where X is the number of cards in our graveyard. She can also make everybody discard cards and force them to burn if they cannot. Her emblem is also an auto reanimate, which can be used to close out games. Liliana of the Dark Realms can give us easy access to swamps, making our mana curve easier to do. Then she can also be used to give a creature -X/-X, where X is the number of swamps we have. If we manage to ult her, though, then we can have all of our swamps tap for quadruple mana. Finally, we have Kaya the Inexorable. Her -3 lets us get rid of non-land permanents. She can also put a ghost form counter on any creature, allowing it to automatically revive as a token if it ever dies. And then her -7 gives us an emblem that says at the beginning of upkeeps, we may cast a legendary spell from our hand or from the graveyard or from any card we own in exile without paying its mana cost. That ult is a game ender on its own. Giving us Omniscience for planeswalkers is nutty. I told you we would be circumventing the biggest problem of the deck by adding in a lot of ways to freely place planeswalkers on boards. Finally, we will be running 4 board wipes to make sure that we can keep boards clean so we do not die, we do not lose our planeswalkers to combat. Elspeth Sud's Champion blows up all creatures with power 4 or greater, or makes us 3/1/1 white soldier tokens, and that blowing up effect means that Lae'zel will survive it. We can also use her to get an emblem that gives all of our creatures 2/2 and flying, which can easily help us close out games. Then we have Dam, which can blow up a creature or be overloaded to blow up them all. Vanquish the Horde to blow up all the creatures by only paying 1 or 2 mana. Then we have Farewell, which allows us to exile any number of things that are not planeswalkers. And this will piss a lot of people off, but I think when we are playing a Super Friends deck, we're already pissing people off with how long our turns take, so it's fair game. That said, let's get into our ramp and mana so we can get straight into gameplay and show you how this deck runs. It'll also stop me from talking about planeswalkers, which is starting to hurt my throat. Now, the biggest problem with the original version of the deck, I'm gonna be honest, when it comes to ramp, it's very hard to get going. The original version of the deck had a 10-card ramp section, and every one of them were as basic could be. 2 mana rocks where we could manage it, a Gatewatch Beacon to give us a little bit of extra utility, and a Core Cartographer to give us one small bit of access to land, but at a heavy cost. In the new version of the deck, we have gone up to 13 ramp pieces, and we are going to be running some more robust ones at that. Charitable Levy giving us access to ramp and draw that doesn't cost us more than 2 and is based on land is fantastic. Keeper of the Accord allows us to be at parity with whatever an opponent's land base happens to be. Gatewatch Beacon is from the original deck, giving us access to free loyalty counters on planeswalkers while also being a mana rock. Mindstone, Fell Warstone, Arcane Signet, Orzhov Signet, Talisman of Hierarchy all make an appearance here as 2 mana rocks. Soul Ring and Wayfarer Wayfarer's Bauble at 1 mana give us good early turn plays. Archaeomancer's Map, probably one of the strongest ramp pieces we have access to because it allows us to repeatedly drop planes on the battlefield if we have them in our hands. Then we have the two big ones, Glistening Sphere and Staff of Completion. The Sphere allows us to add 1 mana of any color, but when it enters the battlefield, we proliferate, giving us more loyalty counters on all of our planeswalkers. And if somebody has poison counters for whatever reason, we also get even more mana. Then we have the Staff of Completion. This gives us a smorgasbord of abilities, allowing us to blow up permanents we own, add a mana of any color, proliferate, draw a card, or even untap it to proliferate more than once a turn, but at a heavy cost of life, so be careful when you play it. Then we get to move into the ramp section of the deck, 6 swamps and 6 plains, as we have about equal pippings between the two. And for dual lands, we are running everything we can fit in here that doesn't come into play tapped or has some good reason to be coming into play tapped. The only tapped land is the Orzhov Basilica, since it can let us reset Bojuka Bog and Pit of Offerings. After that, Tainted Field, Caves of Kolos, Isolated Chapel, Desolate Mire, Command Tower, Shine Shadow Snarl, Fetid Heath, Shattered Sanctum, Godless Shrine, Vault of Champions, Bright Climb Pathway, and Shadowy Backstreet make up the rest of the deck. Backstreet being a searchable land that can also surveil us in the early turns. Then we have the fetching lands, Ash Barrens, Myriad Landscape, Fabled Passage, and Marsh Flats, though you can obviously add in more fetching lands if you so choose. Then for our utility lands, we are running a Nesting Grounds to move counters around on permanents, Pit of Offerings and Bojuka Bog to get rid of things in graveyards, Karn's Bastion to give us access to proliferate, and Takenuma the Abandoned Mire, which can be used to get more planeswalkers out of our graveyard as we need them. And that does it for the upgraded version of the deck. All that's left to do is show you how to play it, which, if memory serves, when I made the original video, I didn't do those sections yet. I didn't do gameplay sections, so this will be fun. Let's get into it. Let's talk opening hands. Planeswalkers cost a lot of mana, so we want ramp. And if we can get some protection for our Lae'zel, that'll be even better. Honestly, we don't even need anything besides that because the Planeswalkers do so much, they will handle the majority of our utility. Looking at our opening hand, we've got 3 lands, a Fel Warstone, and Lightning Greaves, so we have all of our bases covered. Let's drop a command tower down after doing our draw and pass to the next turn. We move into turn 2, and let's play a Plains, tap 2, and put Charitable Levy on the board. We don't have a need to use the Fel Warstone speed right now, so let's let the Charitable Levy do its thing. If our opponents cast 3 non-creature spells during their turn, the Levy will go off, drawing us a card and getting us a Plains. Let's go ahead and say that they do cast those spells, as people play a lot of mana rocks in this early point of the game, so let's go ahead and get that Plains out of the deck. And Charitable Levy can grab any Plains, not just a basic Plains. So this will get us a Shadowy Backstreet, allowing us to look at the top card of our deck and see if we want it. And with a Grateful Apparition up there, I think we do. Let's keep that on the top and move into turn 3. We're going to go ahead and play a Swamp, tap 2, and get that Grateful Apparition on the board. Tap 2. Let's get the Lightning Greaves out and put it on the... Actually, no, not the Lightning Greaves. That would be the incorrect move. That would be the wrong one. We're actually just going to do Fel Warstone and get Lae'zel out. That's the correct move. Because when we move into turn 4, we can play a Plains, and we have 6 mana, so we can go ahead and get Liliana out. So let's go ahead and tap 1. Do we need Liliana? I think Kaya might even work here, right? 1 or more tokens would be created under our control, make twice. Creatures get Death Touch and a ability. You know what? Let's go ahead and put a threat out right now. Let's do that for fun. We will pay... we don't have the ability to do everything. Yeah, we'll just do Lily. Lily's fine. Lily will come out, and she gets an extra loyalty from Lae'zel. Then we're going to go ahead and plus her by 2 more, putting her at 8, so that we can mill 2 and get a zombie on the board. We mill Elspeth, and we mill a Breach the Multiverse, which I would have preferred to have, but that's perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and add that zombie on the board, and now that it's here, we at least have a blocker in case our opponents do anything. And it's likely the zombie will have to block, so we'll move into our next turn, assuming that we don't have it. We'll play the Isolated Chapel down, and Liliana has a couple of options. I can reset the board, or I could go for a different play. But I'm going to be honest, I think the best thing to do right now is go ahead and drop her down to 1, reset everybody's board, let our commander die, and then pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's get Lae'zel back out and then pay 1, 2, and put a Lightning Greaves on Lae'zel to protect her. We've reset everybody down, but we've put ourselves in a much better position in doing so. Now Lae'zel can punch somebody in the face at haste with no blockers available. We move into turn 6, and we have the Arena Rector. We can use this to start threatening our opponents. Let's go ahead and pay 1, 2, 3, 4, get the Arena Rector out, and pay 1, 2, 3. Let's get Kaya out. And I'm going to hold on to the Takenuma for a turn, I think. We've got plenty of mana, so I'd rather have access to that revive in case we lose something important. Let's go ahead and plus Liliana up to go ahead and make that zombie token. That's going to come out, and we can use that to defend us. We've milled an Ob Nixilis reignited by milling our cards out, and we're going to go ahead and plus Kaya up, threatening her to ult by putting 2/1/1 counters on this zombie token. Now it's a better defender, and we can sit back and relax. Our opponents are still building up boards. We're in a good spot. Let's move into the next turn, and we've drawn a Gideon. I think the correct move here is to plus Liliana once more, throwing 2 more cards in our grave, and you know what? Let's go ahead and threaten something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need 9 mana for that to work. So we can't do Triumph yet, but we can drop Gideon out and go ahead and get his first emblem immediately. Now all of our creatures get +1/+1, and we're gonna go ahead until end of turn if one or more tokens would be created. We make double. Let's get Kaya negged by 2 so that we get double tokens when we spawn them with Lily. After we get we already threw our things into the graveyard. That's already happened. I'm sorry I'm doing everything in sort of a mismatched order. This is one of the biggest problems with these kinds of decks. Now let's go ahead. We have a card we want to play, so let's play Takenuma. Let's pay 2. Let's put the Grateful Apparition out. Let's give it Lightning Greaves, and let's punch somebody real quick to proliferate all of our Planeswalkers up, putting them at nice healthy numbers, and then move the Lightning Greaves back over to Lae'zel. Now we've got an army of super powerful blockers. Nobody is going to be attacking our Planeswalkers, because if they do, the Arena Rector is going to go off. We can safely say this board is never being touched until they get rid of the Arena Rector. And they're going to have to get rid of the Arena Rector by exiling it specifically. Let's move into turn 8, and we have drawn a Loth Spider Queen. Let's go ahead and pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to go ahead and put Loth out, and we're going to neg Kaya down by 2. This will allow us to get double tokens anytime we spawn tokens. Liliana is going to be plussed by 2 to spawn 2 more zombies. And then Loth is going to be negged by 3 to spawn 4 spiders. Now that we have a boatload of spiders, we're going to enter combat, and we're going to have the Grateful Apparition punch somebody again with flying. This will proliferate all of our Planeswalkers up by 2, and I just negged them instead because I'm stupid. But this will put them all up by 2, allowing us to, instead of doing any of Gideon's pluses or minuses, we're just going to ult Gideon once more, giving us another Gideon emblem. Now all of our tokens are +2/+2 permanently, meaning Loth Spiders are all massive. There's no way people are There's no way people are attacking us at this point outside of killing our shit. And we've got enough Planeswalkers to be super, super threatening. And in the event that they do start killing off any of our Planeswalkers, we have Triumphant Reckoning in our hand. In our follow-up turns, we're just going to use Loth to draw cards instead of spawning tokens so that we can get back into the game. Not even get back into the game. We're already in a good spot. Let's go ahead and play Vault of Champions, and let's do the final move of the game. We're going to go ahead and tap out and put Triumphant Reckoning out as a threat, but only after we've used Liliana's ability to throw 2 more potential Planeswalkers in the graveyard, which means this has already happened, which means we've got 2 more zombie tokens. But let's go ahead and view all and see what we get access to. We get access to Ob Nixilis Reignited, and we get access to Elspeth Knights Errant by doing that. Elspeth comes in with an extra counter because of our commander. Ob Nixilis comes out with an extra counter because of our commander. Elspeth can make a 1/1 white spirit, but she also can get that emblem. I want that emblem really, really badly, so let's go ahead and plus her up to 7, making a 1/1 white spirit, and we're not going to do anything with Ob Nixilis. We're going to assume that one player is more threatening than the other players, so when we swing with the Grateful Apparition, giving us the Proliferate as we have done on the previous turns, Ob Nixilis here is going to go to 8, and we are just going to ult him the turn he comes out. We are going to take that one threatening player who may be drawing tons of cards, and we are just going to tell them that drawing cards for the rest of the game is going to kill them. That is how the game is being played from this point on. No ifs or buts. That is all. Now that all this is happening, we have not used Gideon's abilities. Let's go ahead and plus him. You know what? No. Screw it. He's going to get 0. He's going to get 0 to make even more tokens. What's the point of having the ability to make a boatload of tokens? Fuck it. We don't need the cards in our hand. Lolth will make more tokens. So 3, 4. Lots of tokens with Lolth. They're all out here. Gideon's making 2 tokens, and that's it. That's what we're doing. We're just making lots of tokens. We got the 2 spirits from Elspeth, and we have the tokens from Gideon. This is our board. Remember, all these have permanent +2/+2 that our opponents cannot interact with. That is a White Knight ally token. This is the board we are left with. This is the board we are sitting with. We had everything we needed on turn 8. But I wanted to go into the next turn just so that I could get that out. I just spent this entire time trying to find the White Knight ally token when it's just an ally token that happens to be white. The internet has poisoned my brain. This is our final board state. If we block with Arena Rector, we get a free Planeswalker out on the board. That's where we're sitting right now. That's nutty. And I would show you where we would upgrade the deck, but this is the upgraded version of the deck. So instead, if you want the budget version of this deck, I would say go check out the original video, which I will have linked in the description below. But if you want to play the upgraded version of this deck, then please check this out here. This was mainly made because there is a person over at my card shop who built the $15 version of the deck and seemed to enjoy it a lot, but did get frustrated with some of the side effects of being a hyper budget deck. And if that is the case, if you are a person who has played budget decks and you want to know how to make those decks stronger, then hopefully this will serve, at least for the Lae'zel deck, as a guide to move that deck forward, to make it more powerful, make it more consistent, and put the money where it needs to go in that deck. That said, let me know how you guys think about this deck in the comment section below. Let me know what your thoughts are down there. If you have any commanders you want me to tackle for any budget variety, let me know in the comments below. That all said, thank you for watching, and as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, just wanted to give a quick thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who help keep me afloat and help keep this channel going. YouTube and Twitch are wonderful platforms, but at the end of the day, stability is not one of their strong suits. If you want to support my channel, then obviously Patreon is one of the best ways of doing that. Link is in the description. But I do want to personally thank everybody who has contributed to the channel. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravelern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Autumn and Angel, Nixie Chan, Agamotto, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. And everyone else who supports my channel and lets me do what I do full time. This is a dream job of mine that I never believed that I would be able to take full time, and with your help, I've been able to do it. So thank you so very much for that. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you all are having a wonderful time. I will see you all in the next one, hopefully.